When you normally think about a big blockbuster game, say something like Assassin's Creed or Call of Duty or even GTA, you probably imagine one giant studio like Rockstar with hundreds of developers grinding away, just pulling all-nighters, crunching, making the magic happen, right? But here's the reality. Most of these games aren't built by just one team. You probably already knew this. They're built by an entire network. A massive supply chain of co-development studios, outsourcing partners, QA testers, art houses, localization teams, they're all spread across the world. And right now, that supply chain is cracking. If you ever wondered why so many games are getting delayed now, or why some of them launch buggy as hell, Cyberpunk, the answer isn't just layoffs at the main studios, like we've been hearing with Xbox or Microsoft. It's because the hidden layer of the industry that supports studios that publishers depend on are under huge pressure. Stick with me because over the next 15-20 minutes, I'm going to break it down how this invisible machine works, why it's starting to fail, and what it means for the games you'll actually be playing in the next couple of years, like 2026, 2027. Once you see how it really works, you'll never look at a credit screen the same way again. If it's a Ubisoft game, it's probably half developers and the other half is just people Ubisoft owes money to. Anyway, just like that one, if you stick around, you'll get to enjoy my terrible jokes. So please comment down below how many you spotted. Alright, let's crack on. What the hell is co-development, right? Let's start there. Think of it like this. One studio is the director of the movie, but instead of one film crew, you got like 20 different subcontractors building the sets, handling costumes, recording the sound, and doing post-production and all that. AAA game development works exactly the same way. Here's the crazy part though. Depending on the project, up to 80 to 90% of the art assets in a game might be built by outside partners. Sometimes the studios whose logo is on the box didn't even make half the stuff you actually see on the screen. Assassin's Creed Unity, for example, Ubisoft credited like 10 studios just for that one game, and later titles like Valhalla involved over 10, like 14 global studios, right? Another good example is Call of Duty. Modern Warfare 2 had 11 credited studios from what I can remember from across the globe. It's literally built like a relay race every single year, except the baton is on fire and whoever drops it gets laid off. Elden Ring, you know, it's a From Software masterpiece through and through, don't get me wrong, but it actually had a lot of help from external teams handling QA and environmental arts. QA, for those who don't know, is quality assurance. And you know what? For the longest time, this system actually worked.
I'm fine.
Studios could focus on the core vision while outsourcing partners handle the mountain of work that actually made it possible.
This is what separates us from the competition. Our core vision.
But like any other supply chain, once you start pushing it too hard, cracks begin to show. The more studios you add to the pool, the harder it is to keep a single vision. Take Halo Infinity again. That 2020 reveal, oh my god, it's a stain in Xbox history. Craig the Brute lives in meme history now. Part of the problem? Misaligned pipelines across the multiple dev partners. Perfect Dark's reboot under the Initiative team ran into the same issue. I know Perfect Dark's not happening anymore because the Initiative got shut down, but my point still stands. Too many cooks, not enough clear vision.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
Then you got Skull and Bones, AAA game announced in 2017, built in Singapore with support from all over the world from Ubisoft. After 10 years in development hell, it finally limped out. A decade to make a pirate game. Blackbeard circumnavigated the globe faster. And let's not forget Final Fantasy 15. This is a game that started as a Final Fantasy Dark spin-off called Versus 13, and it just ended up being another sequel. Shifted engines, restructured teams, and by the time it launched, it's been cooking for almost a decade. Anyway, the result of all this, you don't get one cohesive dish. You get a Frankenstein project, or to put it another way, asking 20 chefs to cook just one bloody pizza. Someone's gonna put pineapple on it, dude. Oh, I'm sorry. Have I offended you with the pineapple on pizza joke? I'm sorry. Anyway, have you ever played a game that felt like it had too many cooks in the kitchen? Which one stood out to you? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, so let's talk about why the system is cracking in 2025. This is where things get a little messy. This year, we've seen a whole bunch of layoffs across the industry. I've talked about this intensely in a video or two, so please go check it out if you haven't already. It's probably popping up somewhere here. This is not happening just at the headline studios. This is happening at the support level now too. Take Virtuals, for example. If you don't know who those guys are, they're one of the biggest core dev studios in the world. They've handled things like Final Fantasy X, X2 HD Remaster, the Outer Worlds Switch Edition, and more recently they were tied to Oblivion Remaster with Bethesda. They just came out and it was fantastic. But they also just confirmed layoffs. That's a big deal because when one of the largest outsourcing players starts cutting back, it also means less capacity for the publishers. Then we gotta look at Cloud Chamber, the team making one of my all-time favorite game franchises ever, BioShock. They laid off around a third of their staff this year apparently. What does that mean? They're almost certainly going to start leaning harder on external partners to keep their project moving. If those partners are shrinking too, you now got a bottleneck. Even Microsoft is shifting gears. Xbox is moving away from hiring individual contractors and instead contracting entire external studios to handle their projects. On paper, that actually sounds pretty efficient. What we don't realize, it actually concentrates the risk. If that one partner slips up, whole chunk of a game grinds to a halt. In the past, publishers actually had a safety net. If one studio fell behind, they just threw more partners at the problem. Now, the safety net starting to have holes. The knock-on effect is pretty obvious. Fewer artists means environments take longer to build, less QA means more bugs at launch, and less localization support. That's when you see games delayed in certain regions, like what happened with Baldur's Gate 3's PS5 launch in Japan. It's like trying to keep a kitchen running when half your prep cooks just walked out. I mean, the head chef is still there, but good luck getting those meals out on time. At that point, you're not cooking dinner, you're just serving trauma. Another kitchen scenario.
I almost be hungry.
Anyway, moving on. Alright, so you might be thinking, okay, but surely technology is fixing this, right? We've got Unreal Engine 5 now, AI tools, even procedural generation, all these fancy things. Shouldn't they help? Well, yes, but also no.
Yes, but actually no.
Let me explain. Unreal Engine 5 does bring some amazing tools. Technologies like Nanite lets devs drop film quality assets into games without even hand optimizing. Lumen creates dynamic lighting that feels like magic compared to the old way. In theory, that reduces hours of grunt work. But here's the catch. None of this is actually plug and play. Teams need to retrain, rebuild pipelines, and sometimes even overhaul the whole hardware setup. That means short-term slowdowns before any long-term payoffs. And we have already started to see the rough edges of this. Immortals of Avium? I don't know how to say it. Built on EU5, visually stunning, but infamous for stutter and performance issues at launch. Games like Lords of the Fallen, ambitious visuals, but plagues with technical hiccups at launch. More recently, Wu-Chang Fallen Feathers, built on UE5 too, looks great, but poor optimization and a lot of technical drama at launch too. Meanwhile, smaller studios who are building their games from the ground up from UE5 like Split Fiction, they're actually doing really well. They can tailor their workflow from day one. But for big AAA devs with legacy pipelines, switching engines midstream is like swapping engine on a plane mid-flight. Yep, the plane is still flying, but now the pilot's crying. God, that's so bad. I'm sorry, I don't have a kitchen scenario for this one. So yes, long-term UE5 will absolutely save time, but right now, it's just one more headache for teams already stretched thin. So, you might be asking,
what does this all mean, man? Like, what am I supposed to do about it?
First up, delays. We're going to see more of them. Games like Arc 2, the game's development has been significantly impacted by the transition to Unreal Engine 5, involving the co-developers Wildcard and Grove Street Games. Marathon is another good example. They keep getting delayed, not just due to the negative feedback, which is another whole separate issue, but also due to challenges of core development as well. Second up, performance issues. If you remember games like Star Wars Jedi Survivor and The Last of Us Part 1 PC port, they launched with major technical problems.
Where are we?
I don't know, this doesn't look like the training simulation.
With QA teams shrinking, we're going to see more launches like that before they eventually patched. And last, cadence of releases. Let me explain. Instead of a steady stream, we're gonna get big spikes around subscription pushes. For example, Starfield and Forza Motorsport were clearly timed around Game Pass beats, and Xbox have already announced a lot of games that are tied to the Game Pass day one releases, so we're gonna get those. And you'll feel it as a player. Some months you'll open your library and go, what the heck, why is it so quiet? There's nothing to play or whatever. That's the codev crunch in action, baby. And when the game finally drops, it's unplayable. But don't worry, they'll patch it right after you stop caring. Quick question, would you rather get fewer polished games each year or keep the fire hose of buggy day one launches? Drop your answers below. I'd love to see where people stand on that trade-off. Although I might already know the answer to this one anyway. Well, comments down below. This codev trend isn't going anywhere. It's not slowing down. It's now the industry standard. Activision has locked it in with Call of Duty. Infinity Ward, Treyarch, Sledgehammer, Raven, each one of these studios are now permanently part of this cycle. That's not optional, that's mandatory. Sony's The Last of Us Part 2, sure, the Naughty Dog led it, we all know that. Thing is, dozens of support studios were brought in for art, animation, mocap, etc. Square Enix's Forspoken leaned on external partners too, and the end result was
Did I just do that?
Well, definitely with my assistance.
I did not just do that.
We did.
I just moved shit with my mind.
Perhaps our connection has somehow awoken some abilities.
I just moved shit with my mind.
I just keep hearing I.
I just moved shit with my freaking mind!
Well, let's just say mixed reception and move on. The bigger these projects get, the more they rely on a spider web of studios to make them happen. But it raises a real question. Are AAA developers still creators at this point? Or are they project managers now? Let me know in the comments below what you think. At this rate, the credits for a single game will need their own Netflix doco.
Episode 1. Meet Steve. He spent 3 years animating a horse's left testicle.
Alright, now let's zoom out a little bit because this isn't just about delays. It's about how publishers make decisions. Budgets for these games are absolutely insane. GTA 6 reportedly cost over $1 billion to develop and ongoing cost to market now. Even mid-tier AAA is creeping towards $200 million mark. At the same time, subscription services are demanding more content to keep players locked in. Xbox needs regular Game Pass hits, PlayStation needs PS Plus spikes, even Netflix games is throwing money into the ring now. But the actual production muscle to keep that flow going, that's shrinking. That's co-development muscle. And when that happens, publishers stop gambling. That's why you'll see more sequels, remakes, re-releases, licensed tie-ins, because they're safe bets. New risky IP, those get shelves first. That's why remakes like Resident Evil or Oblivion remasters are thriving right now. And even why Ubisoft is remaking Black Flag instead of giving us a solid new AC game that's actually good. Lower risk, proven IP. Because right now, AAA games aren't being built, they're being assembled like IKEA furniture, except IKEA even gives you instructions. It's like trying to build a skyscraper. The architect might dream up something wild, but if half the construction crews doesn't show up, you'll either be cutting corners or sticking to a safe, smaller design. Enough analogies, so here's the bottom line. The games we play aren't just made by one studio. They're built by a global web of invisible partners. We have established that. The unsung armies of developers who rarely get the spotlight. That web is fraying. Support studios are shrinking, main teams are leaning on them harder than ever, and the very tools meant to save time are slowing things down, at least for now. For players, that means more delays, shakier launches, and a slow cadence of releases over the next couple of years. Delays are the symptom, not the disease. Games are bigger than ever, publishers are juggling 10 plus studios per project, and nobody's quite cracked the formula yet. But here's the good news. Once studios adapt, once UE5 workflows stabilize and once the industry rebuilds its partner network, we could come out of the other side with smoother, more efficient pipelines. We could see AAA balloon into even bigger, slower, riskier projects, or maybe more creative solutions like modular engines, smarter outsourcing, or even a comeback for those AA sized games that hit the sweet spot, you know? Until then, the next time you see a game delayed or launching with massive day one patch, don't just blame the main studio. The real story might be happening in the shadows, at the partner studios you'll never see on the box. And those shadows, they're quietly shaping the future of gaming. Honestly, at this point, playing a AAA game at launch is like ordering a mystery box from eBay. You might get what you want, but probably not. At the end of the day, I'd rather wait an extra year or two for a polished masterpiece than play another broken launch. What do you prefer? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you want to see how some of this chaos actually hit your favorite games, check out my deep dive on the decline of physical game disc. It's basically the prequel to this mess. Thank you for watching, and let me know in the comments which upcoming game you think is the most at risk of being hit by this codev crunch delays. Should publishers chase giant blockbusters with 20 studios behind them, or scale back to smaller, more focused games? I'll be reading through your takes. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll catch you in the next one. Whoop!